Hi friends! Today I'm going to show you the basics to making bubble letters. We're going to start with some really simple bubble letters in a few different styles, and then we're going to move to some more unique or more complicated bubble letters. These are types of letters that you could use in lots of different kinds of projects. So any lettering project where you need your letter to have a space inside of it to fill in or to create a negative space, that's when you would use these kinds of letters. So that's what I'm going to show you how to make today. Let's get started. Alright, so we're going to start with one of the most basic forms of bubble letters. So go ahead and grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and you're just going to start by drawing regular letters, nice and neat and large, as simple as possible, and you need to leave lots of space between each of your letters. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to take your pencil and draw a line that follows around the outer edge of your letter, but doesn't touch that letter that you drew. So you're going to follow all the way around your letter. If you get to a corner, you're going to turn and follow that corner back out until you're back to the beginning of that letter. So the letter A has a hole in the middle of it, so we actually also have to follow around the inside of that hole as well, and you would do this for any letter with a hole. The next thing you do is you just pick up your eraser and you're going to erase that original letter that you drew, but don't erase the outline that you created around that letter or around the inside of your hole. What you're left with is a bubble version of the letter A. So let's go ahead and try it on the letter B. You're going to do the same thing, following your letter around without touching it. Now, just like the A, the B has a hole in the middle, so I also need to go around that inside hole, and I'm making sure when I follow the edges that I'm not drawing too close to those edges. You want your bubbles to be nice and fat. Then just go ahead and erase your lines on the inside. That's the original letter you drew. What you're left with is the bubble version of B. And you can repeat this for really any letter. You just draw around the outside of it, and if it has a hole in it, such as an A or a B or an O or any of those letters that create a hole inside, then you need to go around the edge of that hole as well. So a letter like C is really simple because it doesn't have a hole in the center. You just follow the line all the way around with your pencil until you get back to the beginning. Alright, so let's move on to a different kind of bubble letter. This is going to be a more pointy or squared bubble letter. So again, you just start with your basic letters. I'm just going to do the same three letters, capital A, lowercase b, and C, to give some variety. Now you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to be outlining that original letter, but instead of curving in towards the letter, you're going to actually kind of curve your line out away from the edge of that letter, especially at the corners or the base of that letter. So you can see at the bottom of the A, I actually curve out. So the bottom of the A kind of becomes bigger, almost like bell-bottom jeans, the way they curve away from your ankle rather than close to them. And again, just like with the first set of bubble letters we did, the A has a negative space in the middle. It creates that little triangle. So I need to follow that triangle around the inside as well. The difference here is these lines are more straight or even curve out more than your other lines. That creates more sharp edges and points. Now for a letter that naturally has a curve like the B, there's not much you can do about that. However, you can do something with the end of it. So you can see I actually drew a line across the top of that B and then lines that go down along each side of that tail. And I follow the curve around, and where the curve meets the base of that B, I also created a point. So your goal is to just make your corners and your edges more sharp and pointy with this kind of bubble letter. For the C, I'm going to do the same thing. At both of its ends, I'm going to draw one of those curved lines that curves out away from the end. Then I'm going to follow around the inside of that C and follow around the outside of that C. And it's really those ends where they curve out away that give it kind of that pointy effect rather than a fat bubbly effect. So if we compare these two different kinds of bubble letters, you can see the big difference between them. You know, the ones on the bottom have these nice smooth curves, whereas the ones on the top are more pointy and rigid. And that's the big difference. And it really just depends on what style you like more. Alright, let's move on to some more complicated letters. So our next kind of bubble letter is going to be similar to the first bubble letter we did. It's going to be kind of curvy and bubbly. But it's going to be a little more complicated and a little bit more interesting to look at. So again, you're just going to start with your basic letters, drawing them nice and neat. Don't make them too small or too tight, and leave a good amount of space between each letter. Alright, so for this kind of bubble letter, we're actually going to be using an ellipse to create our letters. So I just practiced a few ellipses on the side of my paper just to kind of get in the motion. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick the edge of a letter to start on, and you're just going to create an ellipse that kind of goes along the length of that side. So with the C, since it's curved, I'm just going to be stringing 4 or 5 ellipses together that overlap on the ends, following the shape of the C. So you want to try to make them about the same size, and they need to completely cover that C. Alright, so it took about 5 ellipses to cover this C, and you can see they all overlap. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Sharpie. I'm just going to follow the outer edge that these ellipses create. So I'm not going to draw between them or across them. I'm just following them around, following whatever that outer pencil edge looks like. And this is going to create the shape of this C, and it's going to kind of be like a bubbly C. Then you're just going to erase all the lines that are inside of your letter, and what you're left with is this kind of puckered, bubbled out C shape. So again, we can go ahead and do this for another letter. Letters with straight lines are a little bit easier to do. So for this B, it has one long straight line. I'm going to break it into 2 sections, that top section, that bottom section. So I'm going to follow the top section with an ellipse, which is going to overlap an ellipse that I draw following the bottom section of that straight line. So you can see how they just barely overlap where they meet. Then I'm going to take the bubbled part of this B, and I'm going to break it into 3 more ellipses that are just going to follow that shape. And just like before, you're going to take a Sharpie, and you're just going to follow the outline. So since this is a B, I need to follow the hole around the inside. And then I also need to follow around the outer edge of my B. And I'm actually going to exaggerate those ellipses just a little bit. I'm going to make them even a little bit more curved along their length to just kind of give this a real bubbly effect. Then again, you're just going to erase those inner lines so that what you're left with is a nice bubbly B. And you just repeat the same process for any type of letter you want to do. Alright, so our last kind of bubble letter is going to be a little bit more graffiti style. It's going to be similar to the sharp, pointy bubble letters that we did earlier. So just like all of our letters, we're going to start with the basics, just the basic shape of your letters. So I'm going to do the same letters again. And again, these lines are going to be straight and sharp. They're going to curve out at the bottom or at the edge. But A lot of graffiti style letters end with some kind of shape or symbol. So you can see I just drew an arrow at the bottom of this A that I created, and that just gives it kind of a more edgy, interesting look. Sometimes graffiti letters actually connect to others, so I'm taking the other end of this A and I'm just extending it and drawing a line that goes under my other letters and ending it again with an arrow. So this is just kind of a more interesting way to link all of your letters together. Other than those little additions, I'm really just creating the same type of bubble letters that you've seen earlier. I follow the inside shape of that A, then I erase the original A that I had drawn, and what you're left with is something that resembles an A, but also has a little bit more interest. So for my B, I'm going to actually create kind of a curved back line for it, a little bit similar to that B that we did earlier. I might exaggerate it even a little bit more and curve it out to give it some points. But it's going to look pretty similar to this other B. To make it a little bit more graffiti style, I might cross these two letters and use maybe more of that pouty shape or that bubbled out shape for the bubble part of the B. And that inner shape I put at an angle just to make it look a little edgier. So really, to do graffiti style letters, you're just kind of crossing a couple different styles where they best fit to make really unique looking letters. For my C, I'm actually going to go ahead and add that arrow to the end, kind of like I added to the bottom of my A. Then I'm going to follow around the inside shape of the C, just like I would with a normal bubble letter. And to do the other end of the C, I'm going to do an inverted arrow, so it kind of almost looks like they connect together. And this is just another example of a unique way to make these letters a little bit more interesting. That's pretty much it. You can fine tune them, you can change them, exaggerate areas, curve areas in or out a little bit more, just as you see areas that might look better if they were thinner or thicker. That's really all there is to drawing these type of letters. Well, that's it. Pretty easy, huh? I hope you enjoyed my video today. Remember, subscribe to my channel for more awesome art-related tutorials. Thanks for watching.